Good evening to everybody, and I'm sorry because this evening I have a non-stable connection, so I hope everything will be okay. However, my presentation aims to analyze the condition of non-binary identities, non-binary person in the Italian legal scenario, and I have also to divide trans issues and non-binary or intersex issues because they have a completely different regulation in Italy. Starting from trans condition, since 1982, Italy have a law recognizing the possibility to undergo gender reassignment, so to recognize also the change of name. And in general, in the first 20-30 years, the complete body change was presumed as a condition, as a prerequisite to end the gender reassignment. Even if the law was silent on that point, because it was a sort of implicit rule, and it was somehow presumed that it was a general goal for trans persons. In the last decades, we have to recognize a significant evolution, and especially after 2015, we had two very important decisions of Constitutional Court and of Court of Cassation. And following these two decisions, also case law turned recognizing the possibility of transition without necessary surgery on primary characters. But we have to stress that the centrality in the debate and in legal arguments are on health protection and not on self-determination. Thus, there is not a recognition until 2015, and also at the moment a complete recognition of self-determination. Court of Cassation and the Constitutional Court recognized the possibility to complete gender reassignment without surgery, but excluded the possibility of remaining in a transgender condition because of a personal choice. That's in the name of a self-determination principle. Only health reasons may justify the possibility to end gender reassignment without surgery. And thus the issue is who may decide on health reason, because a judge is a legal professional. It's not he has no possibility to decide, but the issues for a case law is actually to recognize the possibility of a sort of mental health reason, does not recognize it self-determination, but because it was clearly excluded, but health reasons. I mean, health reasons, so a more specific recognition of personality principle, of the individuality of the person involved. However, the situation remains difficult because there is a very persistent gender binary system that not only divide uniquely in terms of men and women, but also in somehow requires and prescribes that every person be either man or a woman, also in the for instance, in the choice of the type of surgery. And turning to the anti-discrimination protection, anti-discrimination protection is actually following the EU level in workplace and access to goods and services. But trans persons in Italy are not granted under EU anti-discrimination law implementation instruments. It's not considered a protected ground. I know there is the interpretation of European Court of Justice since 1999, and also in the recital of the RICOS directive, the directive of 2006, there is the recognition of gender discrimination as covering also sex reassignment and gender as also covering gender identity. But in Italy, the implementation did not recognize this section, this part of a recital, and the European Court of Justice case law. Thus, the result is that a person who is transitioning or who does not fit in a male-female category or may not be recognized clearly is not protected. And just to consider, we had 2 years ago the first and the unique case of gender discrimination in a case of housing. No workplace discrimination seems to be present in Italy. Thus, Italian legislation at the moment limits the protection for transsexual person, thus for person who undergo surgical intervention, pre-operative trans person or person who are actually transitioning and or do not want to end the reassignment with surgery are not granted. And that's one of the biggest limits. That's happened in workplace. And also under the protection of the Directive 113 of 2004, thus in the access and the supply of goods and services, because the directive did not mention a recital similar to the RICOS directive, and Italy, implementing this directive, did not insert a similar possibility. Thus, a general norm protecting against discrimination on the ground of gender identity is not included in also in the labor law, and there are no law referring to gender identity. And that's a quite big problem because, I mean, in a seminar on non-binary identities, I mean, this is important because we have to stress the way in which that perspective stress the idea of gender dichotomy, and in some ways reinforce the dichotomy, the binary system in the legal scenario. And I mean, it's not questioning, it's not a challenge, it's something that we do not discuss in somehow. Regarding family, it's also, we may say, worst, because the Italian legal system consider family only couples, male, female, man and woman, and same-sex couples are recognized since 2016, but they are not considered as a family. It's not a marriage, it's something different with another name. And the Constitutional Court confirmed that it's something different from a marriage. It's different from family also. It's called in Italian formazione sociale specifica. It's something like specific social group, but like school or a football club, like that. It's not a family, and it's a lot to do with the Catholic influence on the idea of Italian family. And in some ways, this was also reinforced by the same-sex union law, because the law at the moment didn't recognize the possibility to maintain same-sex union after gender reassignment. The access to marriage for a trans person poses clearly challenges to the legal construction of family, because of the new reading of family marriage that in Italy are traditionally considered a legal institution only founded on the union between a man and a woman. And there is a very strong heteronormative approach following the idea of the heteronormative character of a male-female institution. We recently, in 2015, had a case similar to Amalainen versus Finland, the Finnish case in front of European Court of Human Rights, and the Italian case regarding the forced divorce for an opposite-sex marriage following the legal recognition of the acquired gender. And after the law on same-sex union, there is no the right for trans people to maintain marriages that is automatically converted in a civil union. But it's important to stress that a civil union, in case of transition of one of the members of the couple, is not converted in marriage. Thus, it's a clearly different treatment for the very same situation. And regarding the possibility of recognizing marriage for trans person without transition, that's who did not complete the gender reassignment, the national law is silent because for the national law it's enough to be legally identified as a man or as a woman, and it's up to the civil documents that the possibility is accorded or denied. So it's not really problematic. It's not problematic transparentality for a post-operative transsexual because it's possible to adopt and to access IVF technique, in vitro fertilization technique. But the scenario that Mariolin stressed regarding Netherlands, that's the possibility for a trans man of a pregnancy, is not really possible in Italy because is not legally, but in practice is required the sterility or the result is the sterility of the gender reassignment. Thus, it's not really a possible scenario at the moment. However, in this very not positive dimension, I have to stress the last very positive note regarding prison, because in our detention law there is an express provision protecting trans detainee with a particular attention, in particular LGBTI persons. But it's very one of the most important reform in the last 3 years in the prison legal system. And regarding the actual debate, the main issues are around the condition of a minor trans and the possibility to undergo surgery. That was recognized also for a person very, very young, 14, 15 years old, but I have the impression that it will be the next problematic issues, because there is a problematic problematic issues regarding the consent of parents or not. Turning to intersex condition, in the Italian legal culture, intersex children are considered as abnormal and different because they do not fall into the binary model of male and female. And one of the consequences of the binary approach is that intersex born children undergo surgeries as to normalize their body to fit into female-male dichotomy. And also from a symbolic point of view, their bodies are considered as having the need to be repaired. There is the current practice of cosmetic surgery, aiming at normalizing children's genitalia and children's bodies, and that's infringe upon the constitutional fundamental right of health that our constitution recognizes. And however, there are medical procedures which attempt to eliminate evidence of intersexuality by surgically altering infants, and invasive cosmetic surgery are still being performed in many hospitals, facing the absence of a specific legal framework protecting intersex condition. And the position of intersex condition is really problematic because of the binary system, and notwithstanding the existence of invasive medical procedure to normalize intersex body, the public debate, but also the academic debate on such issues is very, very limited. The academic debate has emerged only in the last 5 years, maybe 7, 8 years, during which scholars have organized seminars in a variety of disciplines. But the public debate, the political debate is completely silent, almost completely silent. And that's quite that's contradictional, because legal and empirical studies concerned with practices and effects of normalizing surgeries are underdeveloped, but surgery are regularly performed in hospital, and intersex person and their condition are confined into invisibility, into cultural, social and legal invisibility. Case law is limited to, because medical services often do not keep records of surgeries performed on intersex individuals and on long-term effects that surgeries have. For instance, records about early surgeries cannot be found, and when records have been taken, the data are not available to be consulted. Therefore, intersex people who had surgeries do not have access to their medical records when they are adult, and as a consequence, it's also difficult and also very expensive to start lawsuits. All these elements represent significant barriers for intersex persons addressing the justice. The way in which sex is assigned in Italy also raises particular concern. A medical attendant established the sex at the birth according to the external genitalia, and records the male or female on the birth certificate, which is then included in the civil registry. The use of a sex marker other than binary male-female indicators is not allowed according to national legal system, and thus the child must be assigned to a male-female sex also in the case of ambiguous genitalia, and also the name must be clearly male or female name. In Italy, in fact, we have male and female names generally recognized with the final letter A or A. And another issues is also referring to Marioline's presentation is whether intersex people may amend birth certificates reflecting the change of sex. In reality, rules allowing people with an intersex condition to amend the sex designation on the official registers are not found. Thus, the only alternative is to rely on the law of on transsexuality, on transgender condition, which is a long, complicated, and, to be honest, also inappropriate process paved by a significant number of intermediate steps and resulting in a procedural and economic barrier for intersex children. Another point regards parental decision over intersex child's bodies, parental consent, and the issues regarding selected abortion. The consent of both parents is required to perform surgery on intersex child, and allow a minority of parents try to decline or postpone surgery on their children with typical genitalia. The practice shows that most parents still give the consent to the surgery. And the intersex child is not allowed to refuse harmful practice in his bodies when parents consent to surgery. Thus, the question should be whether parents in consultation with doctors should have the legal power to consent genital surgery, genital modification surgery. But also on that point, there is the silence of the public debate, and there is a complete deference to parental decision, also when it infringes upon child best interest. And I mean, it's clear the parents cannot be in the best position to determine what treatment would be in their child's best interest, because it can be difficult for them to separate their children's interests from their own interest in having a perfect child with a perfect body. And strictly related issues regard selected abortion, which follow the prenatal diagnosis that discovers the intersex conditions of the fetus. Although such prenatal tests are in some cases used to identify conditions that may be treated in utero, often they are used as evidence for deciding to abort fetus that carry mutations associated with intersexuality syndrome. Activists stressed that selective abortion could be considered as a dangerous step toward eugenetic because their primary effect is to select the perfect fetus, avoiding intersex children. And that the biggest problem is that this practice will progressively reduce the number of intersex people in their visibility, in their numeric presence in the society. And it's highly problematic because the visibility of intersexual bodies is crucial to overcoming a legacy of prejudice and social marginalization. But there is a misinformation, very big disinformation regarding so-called fetal deformity. However, going to the end of my speech, the suggestion on the actual topic, the contemporary issues. Actually, in Italy, we are focused on a recent bill regarding the fight against homotransphobia. The debate is different from Germany. It's a very violent debate regarding, in particular, gender identity. The so-called Zan bill, drafted by Alessandro Zan, member MP of the Italian Parliament, would be sort of extension of an existing law that punishes racist violence, hatred, and discrimination. And the sanction is jail terms of up to 4 and 5 years. And the law punishing discrimination and hate crimes against the LGBT individuals also include the crime of misogyny or hatred against women. Thus, the debate is a very low level, to be honest, with a set of a minority of feminist movement attacking, fighting against this Zan bill. Because I want to reduce, but just to give you some idea of the debate, introducing this bill, the homophobia law, against homophobia law, there will be the recognition of surrogacy. We do not understand the reason of why. The very, very problematic, very violent debate is now creating a sort of alliance between feminist movement and the ultra-Catholic movements, which are trying to avoid this bill in front of Parliament. The last really suggestion regarding the possibility to overcome the binary system for civil legislation. I have the impression that given this legal scenario,